All right. Hi, Greg. Welcome to this conversation.
Hi, Bart.
Uh, this conversation is part of Coherence 2025. And my name is Bart, and this is Greg Judelman. Judelman, yes, we practiced that one, not Judelman, Judelman
We got it. We got
from
there.
RegenAI. And Greg and RegenAI are joining as a project for this MVP stage of Coherence. So thank you for accepting this invitation and for participating in Coherence. I'm looking forward to learn more about RegenAI, your work, and how it connects to Coherence 2025. Um, so yeah, let's get started straight away. Um, yeah, could you tell me more about your organization, the product that you're developing, or the services, and how it connects to Coherence 2025, and yeah, specifically also the themes of wise AI and conscious collaboration. I know there's there's a clear link there, so I'd love to hear more from you. Yeah, feel free to share whatever you think is relevant.
Okay. So Regen AI is a regenerative AI development and venture studio based here in Toronto, but global in reach and in intention. We're focused on working with mission-aligned partners, organizations on both kind of early stage experiments in regenerative AI, sort of proof of concepts and prototypes, and then eventually moving into full scale applications. Um, the two, I guess, modes are the development studio is where we'd work with a client who would have some kind of funding or budget. Essentially, we would be engaged as a kind of a studio to build something for and with this client. And then the venture studio side of it is where we would develop either ourselves or with a partner a venture, like an actual platform that we would launch out into the world. And so we've got a couple examples in each category of things we're working on now. But before I get into any of that, I'll just mention, kind of another maybe third stream of our work is kind of in um, movement building, essentially. So, thought leadership. So, sharing ideas, points of view on regenerative AI and what I've been calling ecological AI, and there's a specific reason I'm using that word. And so, been working on this and kind of incubating these ideas for quite some time, but just very recently published this ecological AI manifesto, which tries to express and articulate the vision. The goal there is to really help shift how people are thinking about AI, showing this opportunity for really what I believe is a moonshot opportunity to turn things around and leverage technology very quickly with a kind of a positive exponential to regenerate our planet and regenerate and build regenerative institutions and economies. So anyway, I can go more into that if we want to, but those are the three streams: development, venture, and sort of thought leadership or movement building.
Nice, thanks, Greg. That's a good intro. Um, I don't know how this is for other people watching, but it was a little bit hypnotic for me to see the background kind of
Oh,
moving
sorry.
around in
Am I,
patterns.
Bart, is this being like recorded and like published?
Yeah, that's the point.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So let me go sit myself still, steady somewhere. I was just
All good.
honestly like I was talking as if we were on a call here.
Yeah. Well, it's all good. I mean, we try to capture natural conversations. This is the whole point of Coherence as well, that we kind of publish the conversations that we naturally have with each other, to discuss our projects and to explore how we can collaborate as we build these regenerative systems. So this is all perfect,
Good.
but was just a point of reflection. And I think it's nice if you move around as well, it adds some
Okay.
dynamism. But it was
Yeah,
more
yeah.
the fact that I saw the same pattern happening all the time. I was like, oh, I'm getting hypnotized
I
here.
was spiraling around. Yeah, yeah. You are being hypnotized,
Yeah.
Bart.
Yeah, well played. I
Yeah,
don't know who's in control anymore.
exactly. You think you are interviewing me, but actually, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, maybe we'll come back to a little bit more details about your work, but I will straight away go to the next question, which relates more to Coherence 2025. Is what do you hope to get out of participating in Coherence 2025?
Well, I mean, can't do this work alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, being part of a movement and being part of projects and work with folks that are resonating on the same frequency here, this regenerative frequency. I think, I left about 6 months ago now. I left a corporate kind of job to do this work, and one of the most important opportunities in that is to get to choose who I work with day in, day out. People like you and others who are like, there's no convincing needed um, to um, to get aligned on the work that needs to happen, working in service of life, working for Gaia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, through the network, just continuing to grow that network and tap into folks and find aligned collaborators, partners, clients, perhaps, as well. And yeah, get just engage with the network that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting that you only quit 6 months ago, like you're saying, and also from our last conversation, it became clear that there's so much happened for you since you shifted your direction, and also it seems that there is a lot of flow coming into your life and into this work. Um, yeah, can you tell a little bit more about that journey so far, and also what have you been developing in these months? Where has been your focus?
Yeah, I feel um, that that the work is not mine. That, like, I feel that there's this intuition. I'm following my intuition, and I'm feeling guided. I'm feeling protected, and part of what I was intending when I first kind of took the jump off the cliff, I thought, okay, there's a theory. There's a theory that if people jump and just fully commit themselves to service, that they will be protected and guided, and figure out how to take care of the family and figure out how to pay the bills and all that. And I know it's hard, and is hard for many folks in the network here. But I decided to take the leap. I decided to just fully experiment and explore with what it would be to discover and work in complete alignment with my body, my mind, my soul, my intuition. And I've been feeling the sense that it's like not my work. It's just like it's flowing through me. There's this sense that one of my gifts, and perhaps the gifts of many in this network, is to kind of see the future. It's not like looking around seeing what things are like today, but it's this tremendous sense of this vision of like, and it's not just one future, but it's like many futures. There's different possible futures. And so, like, the thing to work for is to work towards a more desirable version of those futures. And I feel in a way like I've been given this gift of foresight and this gift of intuition, that like this is the thing to do with it, and this is the way that I can bring my all the experiences I've had in my life until now, in design, in technology, in systems, in facilitation, um, um, in product, etc., community engagement, all of that sort of bringing together into this new moment in time. And so it was also very interesting while I'm experimenting and working with this sense of just diving into intuition and letting it be my guide. At the same time, there's this AI exponential revolution upon us. And for the last couple of years, like 2, 3 years ago, I've been doing a lot of work because I was at this technology company, this where I worked in trying to experiment with technology. Like, for example, we built a kind of a proof of concept for a biodiversity platform that could help companies understand their impacts of their operations on a given area and learn how to work more regeneratively. But that failed. I mean, there was a lot of learning there, but it also failed in many ways because of the sort of market forces at play. Point being, this felt like a natural culmination for me of just jumping on this AI exponential, but in a through a regenerative lens. And it just felt like such a rich opportunity space. And the more I learn about it, the more I feel, just a sense of, both overwhelm and terror, but also just empowerment, tremendous sense of empowerment and potential at what this tremendous revolution that we're living through right now could mean. So for me, it just felt, okay, the intersection of all of my interests in sustainability and systems change and regenerative finance, in regenerative transformation, in climate resilience and all of these things. When I looked at AI, and I just, felt like this was the space I needed to be in, that brought together all my interests and backgrounds and experiences and potentials. So then I jumped in, and I spent about maybe 2 months just in conversations. I posted on LinkedIn that I'd made this change, and I put my calendar link on LinkedIn, and it just got filled by people from around the world who are interested. And there was literally no filter to who I spoke to. Just people jumped in, and I must have met, I don't know how many, like maybe 100 people over the course of about 2 months, just day in, day out. Wow. And just learning from people, sharing my ideas, refining my ideas. I think that was one of the things that helped me accelerate, was just, by getting into this flow of conversation and dialogue, and realizing, because every conversation is sort of like a feedback loop, and just realizing, where my ideas were too abstract and too conceptual. And, I just had this idea of AI helping us in a regenerative way. And I had this idea from the beginning that was expressed recently through the Ecological AI manifesto, of us being able to simulate ecological consciousness in some way, nature consciousness, and help us manifest an ecological civilization. So I had this kernel, but it was very long-term and very vague. And so then anyway, it evolved through these conversations. And then I applied for a series of grants, which I did not receive. And so I realized that waiting for grants to land is not a good strategy. I also realized that looking for funding was also not a good strategy. And I remember had a conversation with this one guy I know who's like in a more traditional VC venture capital investing, firm. And he told me, yeah, if we choose you to invest in, then you get paid like $50,000 for 4 years. In other words, not enough to support my family for 4 years. And then if you get really lucky, you're 1 in 100, you get to be a unicorn, and then you get rich. And I'm like, that just seems like the worst value proposition and a complete and utter misalignment of values. And so through these conversations, I learned like what I didn't want as well. And then so I about a month ago, I landed on this model, which I described at the beginning of this call, an AI development and venture studio. I started in recent, let's say 3 months, really experimenting and growing my skills and capacities in AI development. So working with some of these emerging tools with vibe coding, prototyping, and the thing that's really exciting for me is because my background is in this kind of creative director, project lead, strategy role. And so when I'm working with these AI tools, I have this experience of working with teams that are, doing the same kind of work, like iterating, refining, researching, sharpening the use case. I'm able to kind of bring these skills that I have developed through my career, but now manifesting it in this kind of workflow with AI tools and with other people. And so I just find it really empowering. And so anyway, so I've been developing that capacity, and now delivering some early experiments and early projects, and then releasing some of this thought leadership. So that kind of brings us up to speed. It has felt like a tremendous I feel this sense of flow that I've never experienced just through this. It's like a combination of this alignment with this feeling of liberation and empowerment that I'm getting from these tools that let me work very quickly and get my ideas out and expressed very, very efficiently.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's it sounds like quite a journey, and I like that you're both having this long-term vision. I think that's really powerful because that's gonna draw in your crowd, the people that you really want to work in, and at the same time also be pragmatic and start delivering value in the short term through your services. So I think that's a really good strategy. And one reflection I also what I like you're describing, you have quite a broad skill set, and you have quite extensive experience also in the corporate world. So you bring a lot of these refined skills, but now within the context of regeneration. And I also want to celebrate you for making that step, because I know you have a family, and to take that financial risk to start something for yourself, that can be more challenging when you're in that situation. And it's really valuable, I think, for the whole movement to have someone like you jump in and to bring your skills and expertise. So yeah, just wanted to share that as
Great.
a reflection as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm also curious. You already mentioned that yeah, you had a lot of conversations in the beginning. I think that's also a great way to get started, to sharpen your own mind and to get input. And like you said, with Coherence, you're hoping to find other people with similar mindsets. And indeed, I think this is a space where you will meet a lot of people that are on the same page and developing similar kind of technologies and systems. Um, so I'm curious also, what kind of questions are you bringing into Coherence? Like, how are you diving in here? What would you, um, yeah, what
It's a
questions
great.
would you like
It's
to
a
get
good.
answered?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm probably missing. I don't have a lot of depth yet about coherence and who's in the network. And I mean, I know you, and we've had a conversation. So really, you are my touch point into this network. I don't know who else is in it. So I don't actually have pre-formed questions yet, although I'm sure those will develop as I get a bit more into understanding the network and who's in it and um, uh, what those opportunities might be. One thing that I'll mention, like, it's interesting because I've been in this phase in the last, let's say, few months, certainly the last month or so, where I've been kind of isolated in my work, which is both good and bad. I mean, I think it's been the right thing for me in these last few months and I've been working with a few colleagues to bounce ideas around, to collaborate on things, but like a lot of it's been just driven by my own interest, curiosity, passion, and like for the manifesto, for example, which is like a 20 plus page document. I invited people in to read the draft, but people are busy. And I actually couldn't get anyone to read the draft. And so that's why I decided to publish the draft on Substack and just, get it out there, even though I felt like it probably could have used, a few cycles of revision
Mhm.
internally. But anyway, so point is, I've been kind of in my own world, developing that content without a lot of input from the network, but also I guess, really formulating RegenAI's positioning, refining it. And so that's been really interesting. And I think because as you and I both know, like, because we met a few years ago in some of our interweaving networks, there's a lot of network activity. But I went through a period maybe a couple of years ago where I felt like just like I didn't want to get on any more Zoom calls. I was like I just felt like zoomed out, like I
Yeah.
I just like there's a lot of like sparks of collaboration and definitely like frequency vibing that happens in these calls, but which is amazing. And it was really good for me a couple years ago. But then I reached a point where I just needed a break. This was also around the time that my parents passed away, so I was just going through a lot of like personal kind of stuff. But yeah, so it's been, I guess I haven't been like, so until these calls a couple months ago where I was doing a lot of calls, I sort of had taken a long break. And now I'm at a point where, I don't know, I guess I'm open to, I guess what I'm looking for is just projects, like doing projects, getting stuff done and made and put out there, as opposed to the mode that I was in a couple of years ago, where it was more discussion based. You know, like some of the networks that we were in with and amazing discussions. But I'm not I'm not criticizing, you know, discussion based networks. I'm just personally not yearning for that. I'm yearning more for productive collaborations that like, let's like get some work done. We've got a specific use case, a problem. Let's build something. Let's get it out there. Maybe we can even get some revenue generated quickly. That's what I'm interested in right now. So, you know, in engaging with the network, it would be, you know, looking for those kinds of collaborations.
Yeah, amazing. And I do feel that's also the quality of people and projects that we're inviting now. Like everyone is building and developing something, and they also realize we cannot do everything ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, these are big challenges, and
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you do everything together, but at least there's an openness to collaborate and to exchange ideas
Yeah.
and knowledge, and also to find collaborative projects to work on. So yeah, I think that's definitely the energy that we have here, and same counts for me. You know, I've been doing a lot of networking, meeting a lot of
Yeah.
people, but now I am also more focused on creating value and bringing something tangible into the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's super exciting, you know, like that we're at this stage, and also AI can help with that, with helping us collaborate more efficiently, and then also with Coherence, we really aim to promote this philosophy of build in public. So instead of everyone doing things behind the scenes, it's like, what if we bring it out in the open, share what we're working on, so that others can more easily step in and connect the dots and weave together the threads that can help strengthen the web of collaboration. So yeah, I like that attitude.
Beautiful.
Thanks for bringing
Yeah.
that in.
One of the
Yeah.
challenges I'm finding to be worked out is with some of these AI tools for building. I'm sure some other teams have learned here. I would love to learn. Is like with the vibe coding, for example, it's sort of like you're in your own interface. Like even with ChatGPT or Claude or vibe coding, you know, any like
What's vibe
prompt-based work,
coding?
like building apps using some of these AI development tools,
Okay, yeah.
like prompt-based workflow.
Mm-hmm.
It's the tools aren't yet extremely conducive to like two people building it. It's so this is something so that's sort of like what I'm trying to figure out is like how to work with a team. Like until, you know, let's say 2025, like previously, it was pretty clear what the app development, product development workflow was. Like you started with research, you had a team, they would do some initial coding, like it would take, you know, 8-12 weeks to develop your proof of concept or whatever it was, and you needed lots of money for that. But now
Mm-hmm.
you do the same thing in 3 days with no team, but it's all in your own laptop. Like it's so this is something I'm trying to figure out is like, what does a collaborative workflow look like with these AI development tools? And I'm sure people are figuring this out, but because it's kind of like, you know, you're logged in, you're prompting the system, it's giving you results. You can deploy that and get feedback on it. But like if you wanted to go in and work on in my tool, like it's just something around how do we effectively collaborate in AI development is something I'm still working out.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice question to bring in, actually. Yeah, I'm not developing myself in AI, so I'm not so familiar with that, but I can understand. And I was just reading also some material from Symbios, another project I'm connected to. They're also in AI development.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I spoke to Yannick.
No, that's
Or
Hive.
that's Hive, Yannick's Hive, but he's affiliated, I think, somehow. Their project is maybe
Mm,
supported by? No?
not so much yet. No, Symbios is
Okay.
with Paolo Nardi. And now I lost my thread. I don't know what I what I wanted to say. What were we talking about?
Like collaboration,
Oh yeah,
like how do
collaboration.
we, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
AI development collaboration.
He was also making a point like that the whole startup scene will change because you will probably have a lot of these very small teams who are developing AI with like huge revenues, right? You can do so much with a small team now. So the whole scene will probably also change in terms of how we how we do business and how we build startups, which is fascinating, I think. It's not fully the same kind of challenge that you're describing, but similar. But yeah,
It's the similar thing. It's like the whole workflow of product development
yeah,
is completely different.
yeah,
And as you said, it impacts not just the product, but it impacts the business around the products. And
exactly.
like how are we shaping these teams and these collaborations, these ventures? So we need to kind of experiment with different models. And one thing I'm thinking about is, for example, in RegenAI, there's some of the work which is um, like depending on the project, it might have a different kind of ownership model. So this one project I worked on within RegenAI, but this kind of venture that we co-developed. So the agreement that we came to was that we would co-own that. And so we're like co-developing it as co-owners, literally like 50-50, kind of a thing. I think with some percentage allocation going to RegenAI to help bootstrap it and bring some funds in. And then the remainder we split. So there's kind of like an ownership model there that we were exploring. But then with other projects that aren't ventures that we co-developed, this person would come in and be more paid for their time. And so, like, in other
Mm.
words, like, yeah, depending on the project, the value exchange might change. It's very fluid as opposed to it being fixed and defined. I mean, maybe that would evolve because I'm still in an early kind of fairly startup-y sort of stage. Maybe it would stabilize, but right now it's very experimental.
Hmm. All right. I hear we're getting dinner served here soon already.
Oh, good.
But I think we have 5 or 10 more minutes, so that's perfect. Um, yeah, maybe let's weave towards the end. Um, so when it comes to coherence already, yeah, you shared a little bit of things you would like to get out of it or questions that are alive with you. Um, could you name me any kind of projects that you would like to connect with and have conversations with, also so that I can help you connect and we can help you connect to the right other parties that are in here?
Um, I'm ignoring text messages coming in on my phone that are distracting me here. Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is on two fronts, and it's sort of mirroring the two fronts that I'm focused on. One is opportunities to collaborate on regenerative AI projects. And I say that regenerative AI is very broad. It's anything that's helping grow adaptiveness and resilience to climate change, but also in the long run, regenerating the health of nature, soil, food, and communities and humans, with a viable business model baked in. So that's something I'm thinking a lot about is moving away. Like I said, I've had many failures of like applying for grants and realized that funding was not the way. So in terms of bootstrapping, I'm thinking very intentionally about viable regenerative business models or viable business models for regenerative ideas. And I'm playing with one for this one platform that we're working on. So that's one thing, is collaborating on, either funded or, sort of collaborative ventures that we can, develop together. And the other is in ecological AI, which is a bit more in movement building, which is, I have this idea that's completely, as of yet, not yet validated by the network that this is even a good idea. But that ecological AI is a really important thing for us to be focused on. And I call it ecological AI as opposed to regenerative AI because it's very specific in this idea of AI that's based on nature consciousness, that is designed to embed the patterns of how nature works in relationship, how the relationships and nodes and flows of nature function, that the AI's foundation is built on that. And so the result of that, of this ecological AI, the result is patterns of abundance, patterns of collective flourishing, because that's what nature does. So it's not the same as biomimicry, where we take, let's copy how this nature, how this snake skin works and make a t-shirt that has those attributes. It's not copying or mimicking. It's embedding consciousness, embedding thought patterns and principles of thought into AI, into this ecological AI, which then it can enable both humans and other AIs to be guided by these principles. And the result is in theory, is flourishing for both people and nature. Now, this idea of ecological AI, I haven't yet validated in the network. And so another thing that will be interesting from the Coherence network is to find out what people think of it, and is it a good idea, and is it something to really start to flesh out? Because I don't want to hold it alone for very long. I want it to become, a collective idea, if indeed it's a good idea. And if it's not a good idea, then that's okay too.
Yeah.
But that validation and possibly, if it's a good idea, then helping build a movement around it so that we can embrace it and grow it. Again, I see it as a moonshot I see this narrow window of maybe 5 years where we can still embed ecological principles into AI infrastructure, because now we have all these funky AI tools, but what we're developing in the next 5 years is infrastructure that's going to govern our institutions, our energy grids, our food, our supply chains, and an abundance of other AI agents. So you have AI governing AI. The underlying operating system is what we still have yet to build, this AI operating system. And this needs to be ecological AI, because if it's not, then we go into this accelerated exponential, negative exponential cycle of where these AI infrastructure is increasing the rate of extraction and energy burn. And so this is why I'm so committed to this idea and why I think it's so important.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's really beautiful that you bring that piece also to Coherence. And I hope that this can be an invitation for anyone watching to also invite you for a conversation around this topic and to dive deeper into it. And I think it deserves some real deep dives with the people that are interested in this topic to give it the attention that it needs. And it also helps you to get the right feedback and reflection and potential partners to help bring this forward.
Would love that.
Yeah.
So those are the two, just to finish with, those are the two horizons. There's that kind of longer view that we're establishing a vision, and then sort of like backcasting, like what do we need to do today? I see that ecological AI as this like deep future design, because we have to design in the near term with these projects, these ventures, these collaborations, stuff that we can launch and they can drive value, next week or next month. But then deep future design is like this idea of like, what's this longer term vision and how do we start to like manifest it? So those are those two time horizons of design.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Bart, why don't you go get dinner now?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Maybe last question for you. Do you have any burning questions for me?
No, this has been great.
Nice.
What's for dinner? What's for dinner?
I have no clue. I'm gonna be surprised. Yeah.
And you're at home now with your family?
Yeah, I'm
folks?
staying at my parents' place.
Great.
So
Well, enjoy a nice family dinner.
yes, thanks a lot, Greg. Yeah, we'll be in touch. I'll follow up on the practical sides. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have time for that now, but I'll follow up, and I'm looking
Good.
forward to seeing you further dive into coherence.
Yeah, and thanks for all this great work you're doing, and I look forward to the next.
You're very welcome.
Great. Thanks, Bart.
See you
Talk soon.
soon. Bye bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.